Please, we will give the photographers just 2 minutes to take all of your photographs, then you retire, and then we commence the program.
Exciting. Ladies and gentlemen, we look forward to hear from our candidates the way forward and the how they are going to transform the Liberian economy, the education and health. All these issues are going to be key as we go through these debates. Guys are still taking photos. Photographers are still taking photos. And sitting side by side is Mr.
Photographers, please retire. The professional one, the cell phone ones, the iPad.
Interesting, and the guys are having friendly conversations here. I wish you could have the view of the both gentlemen. I wouldn't mind if they could just say hi to you out in the diaspora. So, Mr. Chairman, could you just say how you are on KNTV Live?
Well, this is a historic moment. I think this further cement our country, democracy. I think you see me sitting here with the chairman of the Unity Party.
It's so interesting.
It's interesting. It's an interesting moment.
Mr. Chairman, can you say how you feel today having this kind of conversation?
This is Liberia coming together. And this is more important. The politics aside, one country. I think this is more fulfilling.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure having this party chairman being very friendly. So we will not turn to the podium. We will not turn to the podium to see what is happening now on the podium. So we can now join the podium and see exactly what is happening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please, 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 quiet you, please. Okay, thank you very much. On behalf of the Deepening Democracy Coalition, we want to welcome the 4 candidates who have turned out to grace this occasion. And we want to welcome all Liberians, our foreign partners, who have also joined us in this hall, and those listening by radio, watching by television, or watching via the social media. We want to welcome you to this all-important occasion. We will attempt to give you a background about the organizers of this program, the Deepening Democracy Coalition. The Deepening Democracy Coalition, the organizers of this program, brings to the fold the following key local organizations: the Press Union of Liberia, the Liberia Media Center, the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia, Liberia Media Women Action Committee, and the Center for Media Studies and Peace Building. The Deepening Democracy Coalition, established about a year ago, seeks to ensure that in 2017, Liberia holds a national elections that will be considered not only free, fair, and transparent, but also issues-driven and gender-inclusive. Inherent to this task is a competent and vibrant media culture that is accessible and inclusive, an increased awareness of the electoral process through civic education, and that political discourse is allowed to foster in a favorable environment. The 2017 election is another important milestone of the country's 170 years whole democratic process. It marks the third elections since the conclusion of the country's peace process in 2005, and the first since the country's economic development and public health systems were severely compromised by the Ebola epidemic. Deepening democracy in Liberia, as envisioned by the coalition, means creating the conditions for citizens to be adequately informed of their roles, rights, and responsibilities, as well as have a better understanding of key issues that affect their lives. The DDC believes that there has been a systematic failure in scrutinizing and analyzing candidates and political parties' policies and platforms and disseminating them to the public. The DDC wants to empower and support the media and civil society to foster popular participation and ensure that stakeholders, especially the electors, have a better comprehension and appreciation of the entire electoral process in 2017. What the DDC wants to do. We want to deepen democracy and foster informed citizens' participation in the 2017 presidential and legislative elections through effective reporting, monitoring, advocacy, debates, and civic education. In this regard, we are focused on building a platform that will ensure these elections are issues-focused, gender-inclusive, and representative. Other components of the DDC engagement include enhanced journalistic standards, integrity and professionalism so that members of the media exhibit best practices in reporting impartially, accurately, and objectively. Establishment of a media monitoring unit to monitor the media on their professionalism and standards as they cover the elections. Elections Reporters Network, journalists trained by the DCC, will form part of the Elections Reporters Network that has been activated in all the 15 counties to follow the progress of and report on the latest electoral developments and key campaign issues of presidential candidates. Promoting electoral public discourse. The DDC recognizes that public discourse is one of the fundamental rights associated with democratic processes. It allows the healthy interchange of ideas between candidates and provides an opportunity for voters to properly vet candidates. An impetus of acquiring such a healthy exchange is the media providing a transparent platform for debates and participation in discussion. It is through debates that voters get a better understanding of the candidates' manifestos and positions on major issues. The DDC is spearheading a number of presidential debates, providing an accessible and visible podium to the political actors. We appreciate the support from the Open Society Foundation through its West Africa subsidiary, the Open Society Initiative for West Africa, OSIWA, to the work of the DDC. It has indeed been a tiring yet rewarding experience, being engaged for the last 30 days with the various political parties in planning this debate. We met with the leaderships of most of the political parties, all of which embraced the concept of the debate and pledged their commitments to participate. We are exceptionally grateful for the presence of the 4 out of the 6 invited. We look forward to the participation in future debates of those who are not available today to participate in this debate. At this juncture, I will invite to the podium the head of OSIWA Liberia, Master Quitting, who will make a brief remarks on behalf of the sponsors of this program.
Good afternoon to all. Our distinguished presidential candidates, foreign friends, national leaders, Liberians, one and all. We are here again, getting ready to perform our sacred democratic responsibilities as citizens of Mama Liberia, a home of glorious liberty by God's command. This electoral cycle is an epoch-making one as we look forward to witnessing a peaceful transition of power through the ballot box after the October 10th, 2017 elections. It is therefore our civic responsibility to engage our aspiring duty bearers about their plans for our beloved country and how they intend to govern. Far too long, elaborate and lofty plans have been prepared with very little or no interrogation by the citizens and, of course, the electorate. We now have the golden opportunity, and we must use it and use it wisely. Osiwa's commitment to supporting the presidential debate marks a turning point in this nation's history as we bring our presidential aspirants to the people. We are giving the people of Liberia the opportunity to know, yes, to demand answers to the how and not just the what. Our leaders owe it to us all as citizens, and we must make it happen constructively. Our democracy has grown, but we need to groom and nurture it further until it reaches maturity. We need to get to the next level where issues and policies are deliberated upon and not just about who was here or who came later or whose mother or father laid what foundation. It is about what we should expect and hold our leaders to. As Lrtn Sonis put it, debate forums will be able to form a powerful ground for understanding of efficient citizenship and of functioning democracy, or a powerful democracy. For such forums are primarily those that bear the traces of how people wish to be governed in the context of preferences and expectations that have been voiced. Holding public debates on issues that concern society will also help creation of an open, transparent, and accountable administration. The risk of power abuse will be reduced to a minimum in an administration which is constantly supervised and held accountable through public debates. While our Constitution and laws of the land provide laws that govern us all as Liberians, the reintroduction of the debate compels us all to be tolerant and voice out our differences and not resort to hate speech and divisive or abusive language. In essence, we should agree to disagree. That's the beauty of democracy. Let us all nurture this fledgling democracy and allow our institutions to work for us. We should not be seen to be undermining what we should promote and enhance. Through such polite confrontational engagements, the electorate will be given the opportunity to know the values and beliefs of the candidates, as well as their ability to articulate their thoughts. It gives us the opportunity to know our leaders well, or even better. Their temperament and tolerance in dealing with divisive issues are key elements. They must be in a position to leverage support and persuade opposing parties. We at the Open Society Initiative for West Africa and the bigger OSF family are committed to promoting open society values that promote issue-based campaigns, promote access to information and freedom of expression, as well as accountable governance where corruption is on the wane. We will continue to support both the demand and supply sides of the aisle by contributing to the strengthening of Liberia's democracy. We hope this debate will play a significant role in the political process and offer a valuable opportunity to hear candidates challenge one another on their policies and temperament. We sincerely hope these debates will become a standard part of our electoral process. Let me end by congratulating President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf's government for giving us all and the general electorate the space to operate freely, and hope that the NEC and other institutions such as the police and other law enforcement bodies continue to give the support required to deliver their mandates during this electoral period. Special thanks to the aspirants for honoring the invitation to this debate, and best wishes at the ballot box. Thanks again to the Deepening Democracy Coalition for organizing, for the moderators who we hope will do a splendid job, and to everyone who took off their time to come and witness this program. Long live Liberia, happy land. This glorious land of liberty shall long be ours.
Thank you very much, Massa. And the Deepening Democracy Coalition is partnering with the Liberia Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Liberia Institute of Tax Practitioners. And we will call on a representative from the two groups. One representative of the two groups who will make a brief presentation to the candidates and make a brief remark. Who is the representative?
Good afternoon, honorable presidential candidates, and good afternoon to all. During last month's tax symposium, our president, Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, had remarked that donor funding to this country is about 142% of our own domestic resource mobilization. We have to look at our tax laws. We have to look at our tax laws and be able to mobilize our resources, our local resources, to be able to meet the budget deficit. The Liberian Institute of Tax Practitioners and the Liberian, in collaboration with the Liberian Institute of Certified Public Accountants, have come together and we have put a series of questions together, a questionnaire together, that we will have to present to the candidates, that they will have to take away with them, and then to report to us at a later date. I hope, candidates, you will be able to do that for us, because we really want to know what you think about doing these things and how you're going to do it. So the question here is a yes or no answer, and there's a column also there for comments. So if you wish to make comments after you have your yes or no answer, you may likely do that. Some of the questions may be sounding too technical for you or something. We'll make ourselves available. In the documentation, we do have our contacts, and at any time that you will need us for us to explain certain issues to you, we will make ourselves available. Thank you. At this point, I will want to distribute the packages to the presidential candidate. The All-Liberian Party
Okay, thank you very much. The Liberia Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Liberia Institute of Tax Practitioners. Before I leave this podium, let me quickly provide you with a brief bio of each of the three respectable moderators for today's event. 1. He works for Unmail Radio as a radio producer. He formerly worked for the Ducor Broadcasting Corporation DC 101 as Director of News. He has over 15 years experience as a broadcast journalist. He holds a BA degree in mass communication. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome to the podium or the stage with a round of applause, journalist Raymond Zabi. Please stand and meet the crowd. Thank you. The second moderator, he is a broadcast journalist and radio talk show host. He currently works for Capital FM Radio. He is the representative in Liberia for the news website allafrica.com. He holds a BA degree and a Master of Arts, Master of Public Administration degree in Public Sector Management. Let's welcome journalist Boyka Fofana of Capital FM. She worked for the Daily Observer newspaper in the 1980s. She was the first Liberian female journalist to cover the Civil War from behind the then rebel lines. She worked in Liberia for the International Research and Exchange Board, IREX, as senior media specialist for 4 years. She currently works for the USAID-funded Liberia Media Development Program. The LMD is currently being implemented by Internews. She has a wealth of experience as a journalist and media development specialist in Liberia and the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, Liberians across the country monitoring via radio, join me as we welcome our lead moderator for today's presidential debate, Madame Maureen Sie of Internews. So we now turn over the floor to the moderators. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome all of you to this debate. I think it's a good exercise in our young democracy. I know many of you are excited about this event, but we just have a few ground rules to make sure that this goes on smoothly, to make sure that the Liberian people and people all across the world truly enjoy this exercise. So to the audience, I know there are some party supporters here. I know you're very excited to see your candidates here. But I beg of you, please, we are going to keep all of our applauses and our jeering for the end of the debate. Please, there will be no booing. We ask that you please be respectful of the candidates and their supporters. And we have the police here, and they're going to be monitoring for any kind of disruption. So I beg of you, please conduct yourselves accordingly. And I would just like to welcome the candidates who showed up here today. I like people who show up when asked. I think your presence here today is an indication of your commitment to this process. I just want to remind you of a few ground rules. We were supposed to do a little lottery to determine who goes first, but that didn't happen. But we're going to call you based on the order in which you are seated from my left. Okay? So each of you will get 4 minutes to make brief introductory remarks. And then after that, we will go into the question and answer. So the last person who would do the introductory remarks will not get the first question. We'll go back to the second person. Okay? You got that? Okay, thank you. The questions that we'll be asking you today were drawn from 6 thematic areas, which we informed you about this in our communication. So 1, we have questions on the economy. We'll have questions on the security and the rule of law sector. We'll have questions on peace and reconciliation. We'll have questions on agriculture. We'll have questions on youth empowerment and development, and we'll have questions on anti-corruption. So your introduction is going to be 4 minutes. You'll have 3 minutes to answer the question, and you'll have 1 minute for the follow-up. And at the end, you will have 3 minutes to make closing remarks. Thank you. So, we'll first ask Mr. Ure to introduce himself, make his brief opening remark. Please go to the podium there. And, okay, please pay attention to the timekeeping machine over there, and we'll alert you when your time is up. So just watch the board as you speak. Thank you.
The moderator, Liberians and foreign guests present here, my colleagues, we bring you greetings from the All-Liberian Party. Today is a good day for Liberia, that we all can be in this hall attending what I consider a national debate. As we all know, from 1980 to today's date, we all have witnessed our country, Liberia, degenerating to its present status. Yes, along the way, we have had some very positive things happening in Liberia. We have seen some growth, but on the overall, Liberia has deteriorated. Economically, socially, and internationally. We come to you today begging your indulgence as we tell you our views on how we can move our country forward. As you have probably seen all over Monrovia and the country, we are endeavoring to get Liberia working again. The question is, how can we as a people get Liberia working again? We have to get the economics of our country, the wheel spinning again. We have to get our people reconciled again. We have to get our people involved in governance. We have to take governance from Monrovia by a selective few and take it back to the people. We need to take the resources of our country from being under a few people, decisions being made by a few people, and take it to the people. We believe the involvement of the entire Liberia and not a selective few will carry us a long way in developing our country. We also want to let you know that our country depends on each and every Liberian, irrespective of who you are, what religious background you come from, what tribe you come from. What must unite us as a people is that we are Liberians, and we must start thinking forward. We must leave our dark past behind us, and we must move our country forward. Our country must grow. We as a people must grow. We must change our attitudes. We must change our ways, because if we don't, we will remain where we are. Liberia is depending on each and every one of us, and we must not continue to let the people of Liberia down, nor must we let ourselves down. Liberia must come before each and every one of us, and we must remember the people outside of Monrovia. Liberia is not Monrovia. Liberia is out there. And we must continue the process of negotiation, the process of speaking to one another, the process of engaging one another to ensure that we are all united and ready to move Liberia forward. I thank you.
Okay, now, first sector that, oh, sorry. We'll have the next, continue with our introduction, sorry.
Thank you very much. We want to thank all of the organizers of this debate. I come to this debate this morning against many suggestions from people and partisans and key supporters who asked me not to appear. But I'm here for several reasons, among which are my respect for anything that is important to the Liberians in and out of government. It shows their love and concern for their country. Liberians are aware of the challenges they face in and outside their country and are now demanding that our country give them the opportunity to actively participate and contribute to the rebuilding of our country. That a responsible government in place, one requisite leadership that is capable, tested administratively, and one with knowledge and experience and integrity to manage our resources and be accountable to them. Let me emphasize here that we are an African country with a huge percentage of our people in the rural communities, illiterate society, unemployed youth needing quality education, technical skills for employment. I graduated from the university, and the first assignment I took was outside the country, something that was not normal in those days. For believe that once you receive Morovia, they forget about you. This gave me the opportunity to understand the life the people live outside Morovia, what the people think about their lives and their development. And I said to myself these few days that it is about time that we think Liberia, love Liberia, and build Liberia. We have done a lot. Our youth, our women, sit in the market in squalor. We see that. When I go up country, I look at different things. I look at the lives of the people, the quality of life they're living. It is not talking, it's about action. And this is the experience that I have. So Liberians, today, we thank you for giving us this opportunity because we should go beyond rhetoric and give to our Liberians what they deserve. Thank you very much.
Please control the clapping. You will have a lot of time for that. Thank you, Vice President Boyka. Mr. Cummings, can you move to the podium for your 4-minute introduction?
Thank you, and good afternoon. To the organizers of the program, the Deepening Democracy Coalition, to the moderators, to my fellow aspirants for leadership of our country, it's my honor to be here with you this afternoon. You know, about 3 weeks ago, Liberia celebrated 170 years of independence, the oldest republic in Africa. Yet, we are amongst the least developed countries on our continent, and indeed among the least developed countries in the world. My fellow Liberians, we have to ask ourselves some very hard questions. Why do almost 60% of our people live below the poverty line? Why is our per capita income of $297 the third lowest in the world? And I could go on and on. There are two fundamental truths that we have to think about as Liberians. One, if you keep doing the same things, you will not get different results. If you keep doing the same things, you will not get different results. The other fundamental truth is that the best predictor of future performance and future behavior is past performance and past behavior. And as Liberians go to the poll on October 10th, I ask you to keep those two truths in mind and answer some of these hard questions about why we are where we are after 170 years. I have been very blessed in life, blessed to be a Liberian, blessed to have gone to demonstration school, CABA, Cuttington, worked at LBDI, but also blessed to have managed large, complex organizations, managed financials much bigger than our countries, and consistently delivered results, consistently was held accountable, created jobs for people across the world. And I ask you, as we look forward, as we have this debate, let's look at who will answer the fundamental questions, who will go below the surface, who will understand the economics of our country, who will focus on the how we can change our country. And that involves bringing all Liberians together. We call it hearts and minds. That involves finding the money It will require funds, money to do the things we need to do. It will require a government of inclusion. It will require growing the private sector and leveraging technology. So my fellow Liberians, this is what we offer you. This is what we want you to think about. We have to do some things differently if we want a different country. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cummings. Mr. Bromskin, please head to the podium, please.
Thank you so much to the Deepening Democratic Coalition, the moderators, the people of Painesville for allowing us the use of this hall. Thanks to Ben, to Joe, to Alex, they're all my friends, for joining me today in presenting our views to our people. Each and every one of us have something to say about what we will do for this country. But I'd like to share my vision with you during the next hour or so, through the eyes and the condition of an old lady who I met in a village in Nimba. Her husband predeceased her. She had no children. But for the mercy of her neighbors, she would go to bed hungry every night. That lady's condition must be changed if we are to be a country and a nation that cares for our people. And then I speak of the lady whose husband told me her story about her dying in childbirth because they had to walk several hours to the nearest clinic to get medical care. That too must change. I tell you the stories of the young men on the street who are called Zogos, who we must take and bring into society. No Liberian will be abandoned under a Bromskin-Conway administration. I talk of young people in Liberia who graduate from high schools, some of them with honors, yet and still they fail LU's entrance exam. There's something fundamentally wrong with the education system of this country that we intend to change. I talk about the businesswoman who took a loan from the commercial bank at the interest rate of 20%, went to China, brought goods to sell at a profit margin less than 7%. She could not pay the loan. We must help that woman. We must help Liberian businesses for them to move forward. It is time to change this country. I will talk about reconciling this country, bringing our people together, not tearing them apart. I will talk about those values that made Liberia strong, that once made us a good people. Family values, values of being our brothers' keepers, our sisters' keepers. It's time that once again, Liberians can care for each other. I talk about the infrastructure that need to be rebuilt because of my experience traveling into the Southeast the other day. Many will say some similar things, but really realize it can only happen if it is grounded on the integrity of the vision bearer. And the integrity that I speak of is not simply the absence of corruption, but the integrity to say, yes, I am qualified to run to be president of Liberia. I meet the constitutional requirement. I have the relevant experience in government. I've been in there. I came out clean with my reputation intact. That's what I bring to the Liberian people. I thank you.
Thank you, to our aspirants for your introductory remarks. We are now to our questions. Sector will be the economy. And because of the order in which we have organized these debates, Vice President Boyka will be the first to answer the question, since Mr. Yuri was the first for the introductory remarks. Yes, you have to go to the podium. So the question is, many Liberians live below the poverty line. What specific measures are you going to put in place to address this issue? And how will you fund a poverty reduction program? You have 3 minutes to answer the question.
You know, when people ask me, what are your priorities for this country? I say to them, number 1, roads, number 2, roads, number 3, roads. There's no way we're going to expand the economy of this country when it's locked in. Lofa County is supposed to be the breadbasket of this country. How do you get the food here? You go to Lofa, you can buy bananas almost for little or nothing. How do they get here? Unless we open up this country, we can go to the southeast on a good road. We can go to the northwest on a good road, the central part of this country. We're not going to expand the economy of this country. When a job that is supposed to be done in 2 days takes you a week, you cannot build an economy. You cannot support an economy and build a society. All of the developing countries, they're not developed because they have ships and airplanes. It's because of accessibility. You got to get there. We have to open the country up. The young people will get jobs. Tourism will be an attraction here. We can't do that sitting in Monrovia and driving. Take a typical example where we to have an invading army coming from Banga. Where do you go? In the sea? Because you have nowhere to go. The opportunities are here. We don't have to look elsewhere. We cannot be a country all the time we thanking and begging our partners. The resources are here. We must invest in them, improving them, give our people a job, give them opportunity to have clean drinking water and quality education. My priority number 1 is road. We open up this country, we open up opportunities. The resources are there, we can get them. We need accountability, we need honesty. We don't just mean people talking about it, live it. In all my working life, I have lived a transparent life. We managed operations that provided job here, and we gave job to the people because of our integrity. You can say what you may, LPMC was a success. When I managed LPMC, it provided job for people. It provided opportunities for people. Open up the country and open up the economy of this country. You will see jobs created. Thank you.
Okay, some will argue that, cynics will say you've been the vice president for almost 12 years. You could have had, you had the opportunity to do exactly what you're talking about. And
thank you very much.
What will be your response, yeah?
The vice president, and I am telling you that you put a race car in the garage and you say you want for that car to be proven. Put the race car on the track. A vice president is a vice president. You know very well what a vice president is.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Vice President. I beg y'all. I want your foot. Please, please, please. Please, 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 please. I beg. Please. Please. Mr. Cummings, would you head to the podium? And the question is, many Liberians live below the poverty line. What specific measures are you going to put in place to address this issue? And how will you fund a poverty reduction program? Thank you.
The primary way that we will alleviate the challenges our people face every day is first by investing in infrastructure, meaning investing in power, electricity, yes, roads, but also water. And we, an ANC-led administration, will privatize infrastructure because we believe that's the fastest way to generate economic growth and economic activity. We will also make sure that Liberians are put front and center of all of our priorities and our efforts. We will ensure that our activities go beyond Monrovia, go beyond Macerata County, but touches on all Liberians in every part of our country. We will invest in education because the long-term solution to alleviating poverty is by educating and training our people. And that's something we'll focus on. At the end of the day, though, we also have to find the money to do all of these things because otherwise it's just talk. And so we are going to go after waste in government. We're going to go after corruption in government. We're going to make different choices in terms of how we invest those dollars. Because without those resources, we will not be able to eliminate the poverty in our country. I was coming from Tapeta to Saclay, and I was stuck on the roads. And I was fortunate to meet a cross-section of Liberians. And I can say to you, the stories told was heart-wrenching, heart-wrenching. And what's even more profound for me is the fact I know we can do better. I know as a people we deserve better. And I know if we get out of our own way, if we revisit our rules and regulations and simplify things, if we put Liberians first, we can change our country. We can alleviate poverty. And the way to fund it is to go after waste, go after corruption, to get more benefit from our natural resources and redirect those things to the things that matter to the Liberian people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cummings. You may have your seat. Ms. Finn, could you please head to the podium? Okay. The same question, just give us 1 second so we can get the time already. But the question is, many Liberians live below the poverty line. What specific measures are you going to put in place to address this issue? And how will you fund a poverty reduction program?
Firstly, Maureen, I do not subscribe to poverty reduction. I believe in poverty alleviation. There is no reason to say to Liberians, you cannot afford a bag of rice, I will give you a cup of rice. No. Our government will ensure that Liberians are able to make farms grow rice sufficient for them to eat and be able to sell bags of rice, helping to pull themselves out of poverty. In the short run, we would use public procurement. The government of Liberia spends about $157 million a year on purchasing goods and services. I would want to see the lion's share of that money going to Liberians. It would help to put Liberians in business, put Liberia in charge of trade and commerce in this country, develop a middle class, and alleviate poverty in this country. We'll also use the agriculture sector, where the bulk of our people live, as subsistence farmers. Our challenge as a government would be to transition them from subsistence farming to commercial farming, creating the environment where Liberian citizens can establish the corporate vehicles that will connect the farm to the market. And we can thereafter look back at history. And our children in the future will judge us to say that the Liberty Party government did something about their plight. And therefore, poverty is alleviated from our country. I think I done. Oh, okay.
What do you make of the Salis administration various strategies to reduce poverty?
Well, you know, it's a question I think you probably should ask the vice president, but we already know his answer. The vice president said that he was just sitting down there, not doing anything. What the vice president has said to us today is that he received pay from taxpayer dollars over a period of 12 years, and he was doing nothing because he was tied somewhere else and not on the racetrack. Now, what we need, and I commit to the Liberian people, Harrison Conway, as my vice president, will not be locked up in a room. He will be a partner. He will be a cabinet minister. He will be there when we run this country together as partners. Okay? They have done, President Salih, with the assistance of development partners, have put forth a lot of policies. The problem has been and continues to be the political will to implement those policies. And that's what I bring to the table. My talk is not empty. I've been in government before. I've done it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brumkin. Mr. Ure, would you please head to the podium? Again, it's the same question. Many Liberians live below the poverty line. What specific measures are you going to put in place to address this issue? And how will you fund a poverty reduction program?
Not only do a lot of Liberians live below the poverty level, but most international organizations have ranked Liberia as one of the poorest nations in the world. This is no joke, and it requires educated, experienced, and committed people to solve this problem. As an economist, a planner, and an accomplished businessman, I feel I can solve this problem. Liberia must move forward. We must get the wheel, the economic wheel, turning again. We must make our economy agro-based. We must support it with industry. We must create mini industry that will support the larger ones and get the economy moving again. And how will I do it? I will reopen the Agricultural Cooperative and Development Bank, where small farmers, poor people, can once again go and get money and start their lives over. I will also reopen the National Bank, where poor people can go and get loans and be able to build decent places to live. I will put more money into the people's pocket, give them purchasing power, and we must never listen to promises again in Liberia. We must be able to evaluate each individual based on what they have done to determine whether or not we can give our country to them to manage again. We need a good manager. Our people are deeply troubled. We are in a Mahoran situation. Our people are destitute. They need leadership. They need money. And they need new vision. And we provide all of that for our people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are moving to the next question, and Boyka is going to be.
Yeah, our next question goes to the ANC's political leader, Mr. Alexander Cummings. Many estimates have said that, have pointed out that our budget deficit hover around 8.5%. This deficit, as you know, affects government operations. What specific plans do you have to address the repeated budget deficits so that the government runs smoothly?
Thank you for that question. I like to think about things in the sense that there are things you can control, you have absolute control over, and there are things you can influence, and we have to do both. The things we have absolute control over to get at the budget deficit, Boykai, is addressing the waste in government. And I will give you some specific example because we can stop that, we can control that. We have to look at our procurement practices, and are we paying fair value for what the government procures? Can we save some money there? Do we buy too many cars, too many expensive cars for government officials? Do we have too many people traveling in the wrong class of travel? These are all examples of what I call waste that we can curtail to reduce the deficit. Then there's a lot of seepage, rent-seeking, corruption that we have to go after. Because if we go after those things, we can redeploy those funds and reduce our deficit. Then we have to look at the revenue side of the equation. Can we get more from our natural resources? Are there more natural resources that we can take advantage of? Again, to reduce the need to borrow. And we need to reinvest those dollars into productive projects, into creating jobs for our people. Yes, into funding agriculture for our people, into training and developing our young people. We need to reduce the salaries of the people at the top end of government and pay the people that actually do work more money. We need to pay teachers, civil servants, police officers, soldiers, healthcare workers. If doing that by itself will be economically stimulating, if you take the money out of the hands of a few and put it into the hands of many, it will stimulate this economy and you will begin to reduce the need for fraud. So those are things that are very specific. Those are things that we're not dependent on others to do. It will take the political will to do those things, and I believe we can and must do those things if we're going to grow this economy of our country. Thank you.
Councillor Bronsky? The question again. Many estimates, have put it that our budget deficit hover around 8.5%. This deficit, as you know, affects government operations. What specific plans do you have to address the repeated budget deficit so that the government runs smoothly?
Baga, while we believe in fiscal discipline, a budget deficit is not necessarily a bad thing. There will be times when we will need to provide for the welfare of Liberians, and the revenue just may not be there, and we have to do deficit financing. But there must be discipline. Now, here what we need to start with is to reverse the flow of revenue. Today, the President's office, the Vice President's office, the Speaker's office, the President pro tempore office, the members of the Senate, the members of the House of Representatives, they take the lion's share of revenue of this country here. make me president of this country, and we're going to reverse that. Harrison, my running mate, and I have agreed that we're going to cut our salaries by 30%, create a trust fund for the education of our children. We're going to challenge the members of the legislature to do the same thing. All those appointed by me in the executive branch, their salaries will be reduced. I want to see a civil servant making more than 10,000 Liberian dollars a month. I want to see teachers making a livable wage. We need not do that by increasing the budget deficit. We can do that by reducing the salaries of the people at the top level of government. But then also, we need to expand the economic base, the tax base, if you will. Today, quite a bit of money comprising gross domestic product that is still not coming into the revenue system because government has not devised a scheme how to reach out to our brothers and sisters in the non-monetary sector of the economy. We need to reach out to them. We need to expand the economic base by investing in the agriculture sector of this country, diversifying our economy, empowering Liberians so that they become middle-class people and that our country will be able to move forward.
One is, what do you mean when you say a budget deficit is not necessarily a bad thing? I want you to further explain, expand on that a bit. Another thing is, how are you going to ensure, you talked about challenging lawmakers to reduce their salaries. We know there's been a history with that, and we know how that went. How are you going to ensure that is done?
Certainly the use of the bullet pulpit. As the president of this nation, I will talk directly to the Liberian people. I will let them know. For example, District 5 in Margibi, where the speaker comes from. I will say to the people, this is how much money goes into his office budget. Look at how much money goes into hospital, medical care. Look how much money goes into education in Margibi, and challenge him to reduce his office appropriation so that we can put our people first. This is the time, and Liberty Party intend to usher in a new era for real change in our country. On the issue of budget deficit, as I said, there will be development projects that might need to be undertaken, for which you may not be able to generate the resource immediately. Everybody, you, myself, we all borrow money. The point of the matter is that we must be disciplined and make sure that there is not unnecessary overrun. If there's deficit financing, that money should not find its ways in the pockets of the big shots of this country. It will be appropriated for the use of our people. And that's what we intend to do, the Liberty Party, when we granted power in this country by the Liberian people at the grace of God. You know, there's so much to do in our country. Our people deserve more. Our people should mean more to us. It's time. Our people just been tired waiting. They waited too long on empty promises made by people who do not have the political experience or the background in government. People that you can't trust. How you can trust me if I say something if I haven't been tested before? I've been tested, I've proven, and I'm ready to say.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Benanayuri? The question again is, some estimates have put the budget deficit at about 8.5% of the GDP. This deficit, as you know, affects the operations of government. What specific plans do you have to address the repeated budget deficit so that the government runs smoothly?
You know, the whole process of budgeting is a planning phenomenon. And we have noticed over the years the need for a planning ministry. If the budget is not done professionally And realistically, you will always have a deficit. If you don't have the requisite skills and experience in preparing the budget, you will have a deficit. I will lobby with the legislative branch of government to ensure that the Ministry of Planning and Development be recreated. Because the Ministry of Planning and Development is the heart of the country, especially coming out of a civil war and in the instance where the country is in the situation it's in today. We have to have qualified, experienced people to plan the future of our country. I, Benoni Ure, as president of this country, will immediately accept a 50% reduction in my salary. And I expect that the legislative, the judiciary, and all other branches of government will do likewise if they love and care about the people of Liberia. And this money can be redirected to another source. But most importantly, we have deficit because we believe, and meaning no harm to this government, that this government and many other governments appear to be too business unfriendly. One must create an enabling environment where people will come, invest in this country, and don't be harassed. Increasing taxes does not necessarily give you revenue, but one has to create the environment where people will come freely and invest in this country. And we will continue to have budget deficits until these things are treated. So, in addition to what I said, I'd like to ask that all the monies generated from the reduction in salary, I want you to know that 80% of our budget is recurring expenses. How can we ever develop our country when 80% of it is on recurring expenses? It's strange to the world. Almost every growing country in this world will take at least 60% of her budget for development and not on recurring expenses. I thank you.
So, you talked about having the requisite skills as a means of avoiding budget deficit. I mean, we've had like 4 or 5 stewards of our economy, the Minister of Finance, since President Sirleaf became president. I think one of them is even in this room. But is that an indication? I mean, were you implying that we have had unqualified people handling the budget?
Certainly not. We have had some of the brightest young people in our country, people that I'm proud of as a Liberian. But I'm saying we need people with experience. We need people with experience. And I also call for the creation of the Ministry of Planning and Development. It's a difficult task. Look, planning, I am a planner. I got my master's degree in planning from the University of Southern California. And it was a difficult degree. It was a difficult degree. And it requires a lot. And it's true that we had very bright young people in the Ministry of Planning and Ministry of Finance, Planning and Development, but there's a need to have experienced people that will guide our young, very talented and educated and smart people. And then there's a need to separate the two institutions. Planning, coming out of a civil war, is the most important ministry. In addition to that, the Ministry of Rural Development, I listened to our older brother, the Vice President, talking about roads. We must create a Ministry of Rural Development. It's unfair for all the resources to be centered in Monrovia. It must go to the rural area.
Vice President Borkai? Some estimates, the question again, some estimates have put the budget deficit at about 8.5% of the GDP. This deficit, as you know, affects the operations of government. What specific plans do you have to address the repeated budget deficit so that the government runs smoothly?
I think my government will insist on a balanced budget. If we lack fiscal discipline, spending out of budget is irresponsible. And you know very well, I think we too donor dependent. Everything we want must come from the donors. I have always said an overprotected child cannot be self-reliant. Liberians have the resources. We should use those resources wisely. We don't have to go to people to look for money if we manage our resources well. I'm happy that my counterparts, they are always calling my name when they speak, experience. Thank you very much for addressing me, because that's what I have. The experience, we've been in it. We don't just talk on issues. We know that if we have fiscal discipline, if we manage our budget well, and make sure that we just spend that which we have, we will avoid all of the problems that we have with excesses. And I know we can do it. We have the competence, but we must have the desire and the determination to do those things that are right. What we don't have is the determination to do the right things. Excuses cannot help us. We need to spend our money wisely. We're talking about people in government. You only change the rules when you are in the game. Many people are being in the game. They didn't change the rules. You change the rules when you are in the game. Now after that, you tell people what to do. All of us are serving government. But what we need is the discipline to make sure that we spend that which we have. Taxes are not going to help. We must have fiscal discipline to be able to make sure that our budget is balanced. A balanced budget must be insisted upon. That means your revenue and your expenditure must be in place. Thank you very much.
Mr. Vice President, I want to make a follow-up question, please. You just stated that we lack fiscal discipline in this country. Are you indicating that this government that you are part of is corporate to fiscal indiscipline?
A government, one of the things that people think about government is unity party. We are the only country who have 21 parties, all of them representing government. So when you're talking about it's all of us. The Liberty Party is there, the CDC is there, everybody is there. All of us are there, and they all decide how to spend the money. So we all have to ask ourselves, have we been responsible enough? Have we been responsible enough? It's not Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, it's the government. So all of us, have we been responsible?
You also talked about spending out of budget is irresponsible. Is that the case that's happening now?
I am saying that if we have had a budget that we stick to and that we know that we don't have the resources and we spend, it's irresponsible to spend out of money that you don't have. Unless you have a legitimate reason, like my counterpart said, that you can have excess in budget. But I believe we can keep our eyes on our income and our expenditure and live within that with discipline.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President.
All right, we'll now take the final question